Welcome to the world of CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. Now the form below you see has been worked upon by HTML5 and CSS. That's why it looks as beautiful as it can be. Now within this form there are things you cannot see, but when you're starting to use it you'll see the differences that are in this form. For example, if I'm to enter my username and I click, now there will be a difference. You see that the word type has increased in size and it's not like these other types. And if I start typing, the word type will disappear and my text will start working. That's what we call a placeholder. Now there are different functions in this form and we are going to recreate it together from zero up to where it is right now. So please hang in there, watch the video to the end, and don't forget to subscribe. The channel name is Technical Alphas. So the first thing we did is to open up our div class container. Then second of all, let us open our form. This would be press tab and then enter. Within the form we have a number of attributes, like action attribute, which is going to be empty, then the method, which is going to be post. Then what we are going to do, we are going to put all our labels and their input types in different divisions. For the first one will be div class data. Now all of them are going to be in a div of the same name, but they are going to be separate. Now for the first label will be username. Then after username we have to put the input type for the username. The input type here is is text for username. Sorry, save this, copy the div class data, then paste it. Now we are going to work for for email. Now the second field is email, so let's go back, change username to email. This will be email, so be email. So we are done with the first two fields. Let us go for the third one. Copy and paste this. What is the third field? The third field is mobile, the phone number. So here we'll put mobile. For this will be number, because we want the number to be limited to only 10 characters. So the min length would be 10 and the max length will also still be 10, in order to make the number not go below or above 10 characters. So here we have limited our mobile number. Now lastly we'll have our password. We'll copy this, then paste it. This would be working for password 2. So here will be password, and let us give it a minimum length of something like 6, then a maximum, let's give it maximum of something like no, not 100, let's give it something like 20. Save this, let us run this and see here, and run forms. So for this case, this is our form so far we have created. Now let us give it a title. Like for this case we had login as the title. So now in this case let us give it a title, login. So we go back to our code, type h2, let's give a heading h2. Now let's save this and see. Now login has come. So what else is missing? The buttons. Let us work on the buttons, then we can go to our CSS. So after here, let's go back to the buttons. Now we need two buttons. One button is going to be submitting the work and the other is going to be refreshing the page. Now the first button will be for submitting, which means the input type will be button type, as a type of submit, and let us give it a value of submit to. Save and run this. The button has shown up here. So this is the button which will be clicking to submit our work to the what? To the database. So if I'm to type here, and I press submit, it will tell me please enter valid email address, which means this button is working, though it's not connected to the what? The database. So now let us work on our cancel button or the reset button. Come back to our work. Let's copy this very button. Then we paste it here. Paste. Paste. Now we change the input type to reset. The value will be cancel. Save and refresh. Now the button cancel has also appeared. If I press cancel, everything is reset. So now we have our form very well. Now it's time to design it and give it a what? A good look. So to get started with CSS, there's what you have to know. CSS has its own syntax, of which our elements in HTML, the elements we use like the tags, they're going to be taken as selectors in CSS, and they're going to be represented by properties and values. You'll understand this in a while, but this is the syntax of CSS. So now let's get started. There are three different ways you can represent CSS in HTML. You can do CSS separate on a different page, then link it with what? With the page you want to work with. Then second, you can link CSS within the tags itself with the style attribute. And thirdly, the way we are going to do it like this: you open up the style tag with the type text /CSS and close it here. So all the styling is going to be in between this tag. Now let's get started. First, we come back to our form. Our form is like this, and we want it to look like this. So you can see the difference. But first of all, we are going to go one by one, step one by one. Now the whole body is given a chocolate color. So let's go and give the whole body the chocolate color. So we come and get our tag body, control copy. Let's paste it up here. Control paste. Now to start working with what? With CSS, the body here is now called a selector, no longer a tag. In CSS, it's called a selector. Now, it's not going to work with these less than and greater than tags signs. It's going to work with the bracket signs. These are the ones that work in CSS. Now, the selector. After writing the selector, you open up these braces. The next is the property. What do you want to deal with? The background. So we come the body background. Now this is what we call the property. The background is now the property. After the background, you put a colon. Then later you write the value and close it with a semicolon. I hope you're getting me. Now here the background, we want it to be chocolate. We want it to be chocolate. So let's save and refresh and see whether it's the same. You see, now it has got the same background with what? With the very form we want to do what? Want it to look like. I hope you're getting the hang of it. So the second thing is this white background. Why is it going to work? Because here we don't have it. Come back to the code and come to the container. The container opens here and closes way down here after the form. Opens before the form, and after the form it closes. So everything is in between the class container. So now if you're going to represent a class in CSS, we represent a class with a what? With a dot. That means class in what? In CSS. If you don't put it, the class won't be recognized. So our class will be container. Let's copy the container and then paste it right after the dot. Now here, now this is our selector. We have got our selector. Now we have to open the braces. So now the braces are open. We want to write our property. So these properties are not that different, as we have been doing font color, font size, stuff like that. it's the same stuff that's going to be here. Like up here we used background for body. Now here, container. What do we want? We also want the background. Now what you have to know that colors in colors in CSS have codes. For example, here we want the background which is color white. Sorry. Here we want a background which is color white. Now the first thing we are going to do is we are going to write it in code. For this case, it's the easiest actually. Slash, then we are going to say F FB FB then FB 3 times. If we save this, it's going to give us a white color. Now we want our container to be with a background color white. Now you see the background has come its color white. So our container is this wide and this tall. So we come back to our what? To our lookalike, the one we want it to look like. But it's not even nearly like the one we want it to look like. So come back to the code. So the width is too wide. So let us give it a width of something like 600 pixels. Let's save this and then refresh. Now it's coming to normal. Let's go back and give it now a height because it's very compacted together. Let us give it a height. Now height, let us give it something like 95 vertical viewport height. 95 viewport height. Now if we refresh, now the height has come. I hope we are now getting to it. You see now the height is the same like this one, but our work is too compacted together and we have to put this background in the middle of the page. So what we have to do, let's go back to our code and give it a margin of 20 pixels auto. Press enter and save this. Let's refresh and see. Now it has come into the middle. So far we have moved like 20%, I think. Now our work is coming together. It's starting to look like the way it's supposed to look like, but though we haven't finished everything. So let's come and deal with one attribute per time. First of all, we have the login. Let us work on the login. Login has to be in the middle and has to have this color. And seeing it very well, it has a font family different from the one we have. We are still using the default one. So let's come to our code, come back to background, to the body, the body selector. Now the body, let us give it a font family of sans serif. And if we refresh, you see now the font family is the same. So let's proceed and put our header into the middle and give it a blue color. So our header is in a selector called h2. For HTML it's a tag, but in CSS it's called a selector. So the first thing we have to do is recognize the selector, then second, open the braces. Now the first thing we're going to deal with is color. Let us give it a color of Doja blue, something of Doja blue. Now if we save and refresh, now this is the color, the very color that is in this form is the very color we want to use for this case. Now we need to put the header into the middle. So we have to say text align center, refresh and see. It is now in the middle, but it is kinda small, so you have to increase on the size. Let's give it a size of 30 pixels, a font size of 30 pixels, and see. If we save and refresh, now the size has come. The size is come. Now we have to give it a margin. Top. Let us also be a 30 pixel margin. If we refresh and try to see, you see now the space in between here is the same. So the second thing, we have to go to the labels and the what and their input types. Now the problem here is they are compacted, they are small, and they are not in the very color that is here, and these ones are italicized. So let us go and deal with the what with the form itself. One thing we have to do is come within the form, and now we are going to deal with the div classes. We have the same div class data throughout. So if we work on one, everything will be worked upon. So now let us deal with our div class data. Come here, we represent a class with a dot, then the name of the what of the class. So that's our selector. Now in this case we are going to work on the what on the data itself. So let us give it a padding of 15 pixels. Save and refresh and see how it will make things look like. Now they have spaced themselves because each of them is in a what? Each of the labels and its input type is in a different class. So it has given a padding of 15 to each of them. That's why they are spaced. Now let us give the labels. Let us give the labels a color. Come to the class data. Labels that are in class data. Let us give them a color and a font family. First, so here, let us give them a font family. No, a font style. Let us give them a font style. Italic. Save and refresh. If we check, now they are now italicized. They are like bending a little. So now let us give them let me see. Let's give them a font weight. Font weight? No. What else? Font style. Let's give them a color. Doja blue. Let's go with that. Let's refresh and see. It's working. Let us give them a font weight. Bold. Let's make them bold. Font weight. Let's give them a bold one. Save and refresh. Now if we refresh, you see that now they are now bold. So if we check here, the differences are not too much, but we have to put these input types on the next line because they are not on the same line if we check on the original one, on the original format. So now we have to go back to our code and create a break tag for each label. Now here we have to open up a break tag which is just br, press tab, then enter. Let's copy this, control copy, control Z. Now let's copy this, paste it, save, then let's copy the two of them, paste it after every input type. Let's save this and refresh. We put them on the wrong side. Let us put it every label. After every label. So let's refresh and see. Now they're on the next line. We have to remove the other first breaks we put after every input type, so that we just put them after every label. After every label, not after every input type. Let's do this very fast. So now refresh and see. Now if we check, things are starting to come into hand. So let us remove the borders on top and sideways, and we have to remain with the what? With the last border below. So the next thing we have to do is come to class data input. Control copy. Let us deal with the input. Now we have made our selector. So now let us deal with the inputs. First of all, our inputs are short, yet these ones are very long. So we have to increase on the width of the what? Of the input. So come back to the code and say the width should be something like 80%. Something like 80%. If you refresh, you can see now the width is now increased, and it's almost on the same level of what? Of the width we are supposed to be dealing with. So let us go back to our code and remove the top width and the left and right width. So now we are going to say data input border width, border top width 0 pixels, border left width 0 pixels, and the border right width, let's give it also a 0. Yes, a 0 pixels. Let's refresh and see. Now none of them is being shown. Now that's what it shows. So let us give border bottom a color. Let us say something like Doja blue. Let's go with Doja blue and see. Let's refresh and see. Now the color will be there. I hope you are getting a hang of it. So if we check on the original one, you see, and we come back to the one we are making. Now the problem is with the margin on the left. Let's go back to our code and see where should we put the left margin. Where should we put the left margin? Come back to our data, margin left. Let's say something like 20 pixels. So if we refresh, you see, sorry, if we refresh, you see now we have created a what? A margin this side. It is not very near to the what? To the block itself. So if we change, you see now things are starting to become like the same, to resemble each other. But there's a difference. Let us come back to our body selector, and give it a box, a border, a box sizing, border box. Save and refresh. So if we check, the difference is not that much. So come back. What are we dealing with next? This type. It's what we call a placeholder. So you have to go back to our form and put placeholders for each input type. So let us deal with this one. Placeholder is type dot. Let's copy this and paste it in every. We paste it in every input type. We save and then we refresh. You see, now the placeholders have all come. What is the use of a placeholder? It shows you where you're supposed to type, and when you start typing stuff, it disappears and then appears when you do what? When you delete it. When you delete what you've typed. It's just there to hold the place. That's why it's called a placeholder. Now, you see the resemblance between the two forms. It's nearly the same. But the only thing missing right now in the appearance are the buttons. So now let us deal with the buttons. Let's come to the what? So the tag for the buttons as follows. The button for submitting will have the background green. We'll have a margin right 40 pixels, margin left 40 pixels, and top 40 pixels, bottom 50 pixels. So we refresh and see. Now that's how it's looking like. If we check this side, the button is the same as you can see here. So let us go to the cancel button and deal with it. We'll have the following. So let's refresh and see. The cancel button has a background gray. Same applies to this side. Now, if we click on the input type, it changes its margin compared to the ones that are not active, and it changes the color of the what? Of the bottom line. But ours is not changing it at all. Let us see the code behind this. Let's go. On focus will be like this. The bottom color will be golden rod. Font size will be 20. Margin left will be 20, and the color will be dark cyan. Font style will also be italic. Now the difference here is that the colors I'm getting, I'm using them from Sublime Text 4. The other sublimes will not be showing you these very colors. You have to download the most recent one. So save and refresh, and this is how it will be working. It will be working as it was working for the what? So if we change and come back this side, it's also the same. So we have created our form again. So this is how we use CSS in beautifying our work. You see now the forms look exactly the same except for the height. Now this is how we do CSS. For watching the video. Hope to see you in the next ones. We'll be dealing with different languages like PHP and how to connect forms to the database, and also be dealing with a number of languages like C, programming language, Java. We'll be also dealing with font awesomes and many more stuff. So please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. This is just the beginning. You can be what you want to be. Hope to see you in the next videos. The channel name remains Technical Alphas. Shalom.